Welcome, everyone, to What's Your Passion podcast. And here's your host, Rene. Take it away, Rene.
Hello, everyone. We had a little bit of a tough technical difficulty there, but everything's all good. I want to welcome everyone to What's Your Passion? Our Passion is Your Passion podcast. My goal with tonight is really just kind of an introduction. I've had some conversations over the last few weeks with several individuals over the last few months, actually. And I'm just excited about really launching this. And the main thing about doing a podcast is, one, just starting. And that's really what I had to do, is really decide on a specific night that I'm going to have this on a continuous basis. We're going to probably have additional, talks and conversations with different speakers. So What's Your Passion is really for a variety of individuals who are showing up that are just wanting to learn about different areas of business, different areas of real estate, different systems that people are using to right now to really figure out how to kind of maneuver in this age of business and areas that you're trying to get a little bit more clarity on, leadership, sales. So it's a variety of different aspects. So give you a little bit of information about myself first. I'm not sure if we know tonight, we might have a few people on. I'm not sure if the chat is a chat on here, Andy. I'm going to introduce you to my co-pilot, Andy. Andy is part of a company that I'm working with, is Convene Communities. And Convene Communities is a large group, about 3,600 members, I think, as of right now. And Andy has been really just a blessing to me to help me with putting these on and kind of guiding me through this process of doing a podcast. So Andy, if you don't mind, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. As you said, my name's Andy Barker. I go by Doc sometimes. I go by a lot of other names that are probably not very worthwhile repeating on this podcast. However, I'm a 32-year veteran of the United States Navy, the world's greatest Navy in the world. And now I do podcasting. And not only do I podcast myself, but I found what I'm really starting to enjoy is producing the shows.
Good. And how long you been doing this, Andy?
I've been podcasting since probably 2016, 15, wow. 16, off and on with different shows. And getting into producing, though, that's something that's probably within the last year or so.
And what did you start podcasting for? Just different conversations with you and Matt, or some other people?
So my very first podcast was called Throwing Down with Andy, and it was a martial arts podcast. We specifically talked about judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but all martial arts in general. But what I found is that it kind of put me too much of it into a corner. It's too specific of a niche. So right. I found that I liked talking to other folks other than martial artists. So right. I decided to change up the platform, and that's when we started Nothing's Off the Table. And we've been running Nothing's Off the Table since about 2018.
Awesome. And then you just kind of just have different guests, I'm assuming, as you're going through.
Correct. Yeah,
How many do you do per week?
My personal podcast, I have two. I do one on Wednesday evening and one on Friday evening. And then I've got 4 or 5 shows right now that I'm producing, including yours.
Wow. Well, I'm glad to be part of you, and I know you've just listening to you and Matt and the other group that is with the Convene Communities. I'm looking forward to really just learning more. And what this is, with What's Your Passion, is a little bit about my history. Is I've been in insurance, real estate, several different businesses through my years. And I love sales. I love serving people. I love offering products and things of that nature to clients for all of these years. And I've just found through the last few years that the biggest struggle is majority of people are either in a business and they're not succeeding at the level they do want to, or they're wanting to get started in a business or doing something of a side hustle. We're seeing in today's world, there's so much that is changing on a daily basis. You have so many companies that are downsizing. You have so many individuals who are from the youth to the middle-aged, even to the older. I have so many different ranges of friends that are in all ages, and I'm finding that people are just all looking for a community. They're looking for resources. They're looking for some type of assistance, but there's so much noise out there. And I'm finding that with YouTube and these social media channels, that you can get really lost very quickly. You can get ripped off. You can get abused. I started this What's Your Passion back around COVID time. And the goal was, okay, well, if I love coaching, I love teaching. I've already recruited insurance agents and taught them through the years. I've created my own insurance agency with Allstate as a captive agent, also as an independent agency. Recruited Keller Williams agents. I started that agency back in 2000, and I was a team leader. I enjoy coaching and teaching and training. I got really good at real estate and investing. And I tell everyone that there's successes and failures. And sometimes you hear all the successes, but you don't really hear the failures. And so What's Your Passion is really what I find is a community of individuals. I'm hoping to bring in so many different variety of different individuals so everybody can kind of get a mixture of conversations and different insights, not just from me. I find that some individuals might need more help on mental wealth or mental, how does the name? Mental
wellness.
And I think that's what y'all's podcast was just a few minutes ago.
Correct.
There were some great conversations. My brother passed away this year and he went through a phase of over the last few years dealing with that. And it was an eye opener to myself of how much is really going on in this world with depression, with mental health wellness issues. And I'm having more and more conversations on a daily basis with individuals on that. So we're hoping to have a part of individuals coming on with that also. When it comes down to what I would like to do tonight is just really share that What's Your Passion and Our Passion is Your Passion. We're turning into not just a coaching platform to help with mindset, leadership, maybe some sales, different things of that nature. We can help with clients. But at the same time, we're looking to find individuals who are wanting to market their business, but they don't really know how to. And so I've created a small group of individuals who are helping some of our clients right now with just the basic strategies of how to start a podcast, how to start a YouTube channel, how to take your brand, and you have to look at yourself as a brand. It is very hard for some individuals to find themselves and think of themselves as a brand, but I'm finding that the advertising dollars in today's times are changing. The future right now is going towards these social media channels, your business, whatever it may be, if you have one already, that selling yourself and getting really good at picturing yourself as a Coca-Cola, as a Home Depot, as a Lowe's. You have to start looking at yourself as a brand. And that's where this really comes from, is that majority of individuals are not really seeing themselves at that point. And they need sometimes maybe some guidance or a community of individuals to help them through some of the areas that I find. So, Andy, if I can ask you, you're finding when you first started doing podcasting like this or video, was it uncomfortable?
Oh, for sure. I couldn't stand the sound of my voice. I couldn't stand to watch my video playback. It was awful.
Right.
But you get over it pretty quickly. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get. And yes, you really do sound like that.
And then when you first start, I find just in myself, when I first started doing this, it's not like I never did video. I've done some little commercials in the past for my insurance business. And it was really just, I went into the studio and they gave me a script. I read over the script. They put it on a teleprompter. We took a couple of takes and they kind of had an opportunity to change my voice and things of that nature. And when I did that, that was years ago. And I keep on thinking as I'm watching YouTube over the last few years, I never really looked at it. I never looked at it from the perspective of having your own TV show. And I think that some people don't really understand it. And I'm seeing now that if you really start looking at the individuals over the last 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, that they've just basically started videotaping their conversations. And I believe we all are made for conversations. And that's really what your passion and doing this podcast is all about, is really opening up these conversations. So hopefully it can help individuals in different areas. Doing this type of a conversation when you're in front of individuals and not really having a conversation, it is somewhat awkward. It is sometimes challenging. But at the same time, if you start it and you just repetitiously do it on a weekly basis and you get in the habit of doing videos, you'll start realizing that content is really everything. And that's part of what this whole process is, that I find a majority of individuals who I am talking to, that they have small businesses, they're trying to figure out the marketing strategies. And I have a few coaches that I'm working with and individuals like Matt with Convene Communities, that we're basically developing these platforms to where we can help you kind of get into the rhythm, start asking questions, start small and work yourself into it. We have one individual, LaDuke Entertainment, a good friend of mine, Armando, met him over about 3 years ago. And at that time is when I started What's Your Passion. And I started realizing it from my home that I was doing videos, I was doing everything. I was watching stuff. I was trying to figure out, how do I do this podcast thing? I didn't know what equipment, things of that nature to do. I started playing with it. Then I started critiquing the videos, and I started, okay, let me get into editing. Then I realized it's a bear. Correct, Andy? Trying to do everything.
Yes, sir.
Right. When you're trying to do everything yourself, it is not easy. At the time, I have two friends. One's a radio announcer, and he does politics with a punch, and another friend of mine who's both of them are in the political parties. So we actually started a conversation, and we started doing the podcast here at my house a little bit. Then we started thinking, okay, well, heck, if it's this difficult for a person like myself, then maybe let's see if we can create a podcast studio. So actually, I created a podcast studio, took over an old radio station, WRNO, and I turned it into a podcast studio. We had a big room. We had about 3 different separate rooms, and everything was going fine. Then Hurricane Ida came. So when Hurricane Ida came, blew the roof off, and all the work that I did in that building, at least about $15,000 to $20,000 worth of renovation went underwater, right? And so I kind of put it on hold, and I said, okay, let me just back up a little bit. So I realized over the last few years that you don't have to be totally perfect. You just have to start. And when you look at all these different channels right now that are really eye-catching, they have a lot of their stuff, they have a beautiful background and everything else. You look at my office right now, it's just a basic office, right? And what happens is people are so into looking at that, they think that they can't start until they're perfect. Am I right, Andy?
Yeah, there's a lot of folks out there that, they suffer from the age-old, paralysis by analysis. You got to pull the trigger. There's no perfect time. The perfect time is right now, and it's very simple to do nowadays. Super simple. You don't need a fancy studio. You can create a small studio in a closet. Literally, that's what I did for the first year of my podcast.
And so you're seeing in your history of going through this over the last few years, you're seeing a little big transformation, and you're seeing more and more individuals catching on. That podcasts are a great way to market their business, talk about their stuff, and get people to know them, like them, and trust them.
When podcasting first started, it was all about just telling stories. And, that still exists. But yeah, I've seen a shift. I think people have realized the power of doing a podcast and getting your information out there on a consistent basis. And what I truly like about the live podcast, what we're doing now, is that your fan base or your customers, your clients, whatever the nomenclature is you decide to choose, can interact with you and have immediate feedback.
Yes, it is. It is something that having some individuals asking questions and figuring out how we can answer questions. It's kind of like y'all were talking about earlier, being a therapist. And we sometimes don't feel like we need a therapist, but I think we all need somebody to talk to, answer questions, or ask questions. Today, I had so many conversations just with a lady who I'd never met about grants and things of that nature. And it just turned into almost an hour conversation. It turned into faith. It turned into some issues that she's had with her family. And it's just the relationship just building very quickly. And I told her about what I'm doing with the podcast. and her husband's a pastor. Well, not no, he's a pastor, but also he deals with home hospice.
Oh,
And so
wow.
that conversation just, it's amazing how that conversation just kind of went today, and I feel it's going to grow. We kind of got on faith, and I got brought something up to her why I'm reaching out to individuals in certain areas, because I told her that so many people are coming to me right now that are wanting to learn how to grow their business, how to get grants, how to get certain things. And that's why I reached out to her, because I looked her up online, actually. So it was a very good conversation. So when it comes down to where I'm at right now, I'm finding is the power of leverage is in any business. We get stuck and we don't realize that we might be good at a certain part of our business or an idea. We all have certain ideas, and sometimes you just need some type of support system to figure out how to take the idea to reality. And then when you have that reality, you might be good at certain parts, but might not be good at the business part. Give you an example. My cousin came to me back in 2000, I think it was 15. So I was doing very good with my Allstate insurance business. And I remember he was doing very well with the lawn care business, but I really wasn't paying attention to the numbers and everything else. So he asked me if I can help him grow the business. And we started learning, okay, that's where he was kind of stuck. He understood the basics of the exterior work and everything else, but not really the business side. So we took that business and we've grown into a pretty substantial company over the last few years. And now we're at a point now to where we're stagnated a little bit. And now I'm coming in really with raising the leaders that's inside the company and getting everybody involved into the vision, right? So to take a company sometimes from an idea, you can make money doing something, but then to try to get it to a level of another, you got to sometimes reach out to resources, and you have to find out how to figure out certain individuals, how they can play a part. And that's where, again, what your passion, or even when I started my consulting business years ago, was for that reason. And I enjoy really the opportunity of serving people and helping people with those areas. And I can give in my experiences of success and failures and help people shorten the time frame of making any mistakes that I made, or even the resources that we bring. So when we're having this conversation, as we're progressing with our episodes and our trainings, we're wanting to kind of find out what are some of the problems that people are having. What are the problems that are basically bottlenecking certain individuals from moving? Is it a belief system? Do you find sometimes, Andy, when you're talking to so many business owners, do you find sometimes their belief or confidence is something that's hindering them from moving or progressing?
I wouldn't say that. I would go out on a limb and say pride is what's hindering folks. Their pride is preventing them from reaching out, knowing that they have issues, but they're too prideful to reach out and ask for help. I was very big into martial arts and been training jiu-jitsu and judo pretty much my whole life. And I see it over and over again. The small gym owners, especially the jiu-jitsu gym owners, they're great at instructing, but they can't run a business to save their life. And, especially the ones that come over from Brazil, it's a very machismo culture to begin with. So that pride prevents them from number one, admitting that they're failing, and number two, asking for help. So you see it all the time.
So the pride. And then, so what are some of the things that so when it comes down to the pride part, is it just the ego? Is it something that you're finding from your perception that why they're not asking is because they don't want to look like they don't know what they're doing? Or what is it that most people have that challenge with?
I'm speaking specifically to the martial arts community. Okay. A lot of the instructors that come over here in open schools are from Brazil, and their culture is the Hispanic culture to begin with. So the machismo. So they're raised, to be prideful, number one, but that pride gets in the way when they don't want to appear to be a failure in front of their friends, family, associates, what have you. So since they're afraid to look weak, they try to cover things up. And when you cover things up, as you well know, you get down on a very slippery slope. And then conversely, they don't want to ask for help, knowing that they need help and knowing that someone could probably bail them out of the jam they're in, but they're too prideful to ask for it. Now, again, I'm not saying this is all business owners. I'm just referencing a very, very small, microcosm of the entire population of businesses.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. It's I think I guess I go back to, I can just kind of relate. I was in a health club business. My older brother was always in health clubs ever since I was young. So that's where I got a little bit of exposure to my father and my brother being my mentors, I guess, right? And so I learned for myself, I learned the sales skills, leadership, kind of the front end of the business, but I never really understood the back end, right? So he basically just taught me that, hey, Rene, when somebody comes into the door, ask them some questions, find out what they're here for. What are they looking to lose weight, gain weight, getting better fit, whatever it is. Once you ask those questions, then I basically just, let's do a walk around. Let's do a walk around in the gym. I'll show you some of the machines. So as a young individual, I've learned those skills of just communication, asking questions and directing people through a process. And then when they became a member, we gave them it was really, I wish I had this sheet. It was a sheet that basically gave them the direction on what to do every time they came in. So that sheet had their name written on it, and we wrote on there how many reps they would do, how many sets of, crunches, leg raises, things of that nature, what days they would do back, what days they would do arms and everything else. So that was my exposure in a young age to where I got that confidence, I guess you can say, but I never really understood business until I started managing a staffing company. And the owners would basically, they managed all the money. I just built the relationships with contracting companies and things of that nature. And they started saying, hey, Rene, listen, we need you to go collect money. And then the owner would start helping me understand the numbers, right? Oh, okay. So we're spending this much on a weekly basis on payroll, and these companies are owing us literally 50,000 or 100,000 right on payroll. And so I really started understanding business right around that age. And I find today's a lot of individuals are not getting that exposure. I am talking to some individuals with youth individuals right now they're coming out of high school. They're not teaching even mathematics anymore or different accounting programs like they used to in the schools anymore. I think y'all were talking about this a little bit earlier on the first podcast about how the youth right now is being really neglected, and they're not getting exposure to a lot of things that we were exposed to as we were young. And it's because of the parents that are very busy. They're more busy today than ever before. You got divorced parents, so that the child's kind of not getting the direction from the father like they should or somewhat. So I'm finding that within the youth programs, I'm working with some companies like Keller Williams about how to really start creating some different programs to educate the kids on the basics of business, the basics of having an idea, how to make it to where you understanding a business plan, understanding profit and loss statements, balance sheets, things of that nature, and understanding really everything is sales. Majority of people look at sales as kind of not really a good profession, but for me, it's been my best profession because it taught me how to be in total control of creating an idea and going out and creating the activity and results. And what I was saying earlier was some individuals I'm finding they're just not confident in sales, not really confident in promoting themselves, but they're great at what they do, but they just don't have that confidence on promoting themselves. And that's where marketing right now has become the key focus for myself over the last few months, because I'm trying to really put together a team that we can help these companies, whether small or large, to really find a way to where we can help you with the process of starting your channels, looking at yourself as a brand, figuring out the different parts of a conversation to where we can understand, kind of like a doctor and a therapist, that finding out what are the areas that you're comfortable with, what are the areas you're not comfortable with, and figuring out how to start that marketing strategy on these social media channels and even YouTube. And sometimes the people are not realizing that if you're in a profession, you don't have to be on YouTube. You don't have to be on the screen. If you have a certain product, I'm showing certain clients how you can just really just take a video of a product or a procedure. So let's say you're in some type of health or beauty industry and you have clients that you're working on. It's not so much taking a video on you, but it's actually taking a video on your clients and creating testimonials from those clients that are helping you kind of grow your business and your influence. So that's one part that I'm really excited about right now, where we are, is that we've kind of taken What's Your Passion from the very beginning to not only be in a coaching mindset training program that I can bring to the table and certain resources, but also now I've connected with other resources that we can help really with the media. My grandson's 24 years old, and Chase has gotten really good at really editing videos, copywriting, and he really enjoys it. And from that, it's helped my lawn care business. We are a microblading permanent cosmetic business, which my girlfriend Belinda handles. And so he's been doing that for us. And also, I think we're working maybe with 6 other clients right now that are helping them with the same thing, just how to take their videos or take some content that they currently have and how we can create their YouTube channels and things of that nature in their social media to make them look more of a brand. So that's the part where we're going into that media side of the company. And then when it comes down to Matt and convene communities, you'll learn more about as we're progressing. And we're going to have Matthew, who's the founder of Convene, get on, and we're going to have different speakers that are part of the community. I think y'all are up to 3,600 members, I think now, which is awesome. And I know the Convene community is becoming a platform that I've learned that it makes everything into one. We can bring you in if you're looking to build a community. We can bring you into the platform. Now you're associated with a community of almost 3,600 members and growing. We're creating small events online and also offline. So Convene Communities, now a platform that we're going to be introducing more to, where we can show you how you can come into our family. You can go into the program. We're going to teach you how to create a community where you can start really sharing yourself and your information to other individuals. And if you do have a product, sometimes I think, and I'm not sure what your thoughts on this, Andy, is, do you find that some people don't realize that the power of community, resource, and also the online businesses, how you can get exposure to the world? And sometimes we're in our cities and we're not really realizing that if you have a physical business, sometimes exposing it to other channels in the world, it gives you more exposure, and you never know if you're going to be able to sell certain products or services to other people.
Yeah, you're correct. I think for all the garbage that is out there on the internet nowadays, we really need to take advantage of the opportunities that we have in front of us. So yeah, get your stuff out there in front of people, because you never know who's coming through on vacation. You never know who may be moving for a job transfer. You just never know. And you know what's it hurt? Absolutely nothing.
No, it's the gentleman who I'm learning from, Pete Vargas, and his business, I think, grew. A lot of businesses actually grew through COVID. These individuals like Tony Robbins and other big speakers you're seeing, that they were doing the traditional old-fashioned way, having events, and their events might have 3,000 and 10,000 people. They would spend millions of dollars on, big establishments, Superdome, things of that nature. And what happened with COVID, if you really pay attention or listen to some of their stories, they started realizing that the power of doing Zoom and webinars was a stage. So the power of stages is other people's stages, which is OPS. So by sharing information like we're doing tonight, our information is going to go on different channels. And I believe that, Andy, that's what you do. Is you basically just take this podcast and you chop it up and you upload it to different channels. Is that correct?
Yeah.
or YouTube?
Yes. Essentially, yes. And long story short, yes.
So part of where we are right now with this process is, again, showing individuals how the power of doing a podcast, making it specific on whatever topics you might have it on. So that tonight is more of an open conversation about different things of what we're doing. But the plan is, over the course of the next few weeks, as we're rolling out more episodes and having different guests on, that will be a conversation on certain specifics. Now, some conversations are going to be very broad, just like we're doing a little bit tonight, because we don't want to go into it. It's hard for me to go into one niche. I just now started back with my Keller Williams real estate company. I was a team leader. Like I said, I was coaching, training real estate agents for years. I really enjoyed it. I loved it. I kind of unplugged myself from the group over the course of the years, because I kind of just fell in being an investor and things of that nature. And so I realized that, by being unplugged from that, it really kind of is a source that they have so much education, knowledge, and things of that nature. So recently I plugged back into that. And so we're going to have more conversations on real estate. I have a team putting together for wholesale properties, teaching people how to do wholesale, real estate investing, how to multiply your income in different ways. So we're going to have different conversations on real estate. We are going to have conversations on insurance and wealth. I have certain individuals and friends of mine that are still in that industry in different areas of annuities. So I find that education is the key, and what your passion is just going to be a foundation that's going to be bringing some different variety of education information to individuals so we can all learn more and learn faster. Where some of the areas that I'm getting caught with some individuals is just trying to figure out where they are. Do they want to learn sales? If you're looking to learn sales skills or different ways of how to get communication, that's another topic that we want to focus on over the course of, again, just figuring out leverage. Leverage is using other people's channels. What we're learning here is just by putting together these videos and sharing it on different channels. I think convening communities really where I'm looking forward to teaching on as we're progressing on that, because I think more people, when they understand the power of convene and what we're doing with that. The summit, I believe, is coming up in February.
Correct.
And y'all are looking at doing those summits pretty often after that.
I'm not quite sure. We haven't. Well, Matt and I personally haven't talked about past this February, but yeah, it's going to be a great one. Fortunately, we're going to do it on Zoom or this platform here, okay, so we can get it out to the masses. We did one last year. It was in outside of Raleigh in North Carolina, and it's fantastic. It turned out great.
Yeah, I missed that one. So that was a physical event that y'all had where y'all kind of came together.
Correct. It was amazing.
So the power of events, right? The power of events. You have power of events online, and then you have power of events offline. So I feel that between webinars, and then I'm also looking at what I'm learning is even small little gatherings or dinners, to where if individuals in certain pockets of the small towns that they're wanting to get together once a month or somewhat of that nature and learn from different speakers, that I'm looking at doing dinners. So that's part of what I'm learning right now with certain individuals that we're planning out over the course of the year. But I think the online webinar and podcast are the first areas where I'm trying to get more people comfortable with. And then from there, working on their social media channels to make their branding look good, whether that's with certain programs, Canva, things of that nature, by making their templates look good and thumbnails. I'm finding with all of the thumbnails that I think people are going back to just reality and being authentic, right? I feel like I've been listening to a lot of conversations lately about how the thumbnails and things of that nature are getting kind of got out of hand. And I think more and more people are becoming back to really like this. We're just being authentic. I'm not showcasing a big house in the background, a car and all that stuff. It's just basically just being real and upfront. And I think most people are getting a little bit turned off with some of that stuff. Do you find the same, or what's your thoughts?
My wife always says less is more. So I don't believe you need all the flashy. I don't really have any. Well, that's just my "I love me" wall in the back. So that's nothing fancy. It's just stuff I put up. But yeah, you don't need to be fancy. If you have a great message, people are going to listen, and they're not really going to care what's in your background.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that if you don't mind, because I know we don't have everybody on the channel. If we have any questions that everybody has, or any questions that you're wanting to ask us while we're here, so we can help fill in. What are you looking for? What is your why? Why do you come to podcast or looking on YouTube? What are some of the things and questions? Maybe if y'all can, do we have a channel that we're looking at, Andy?
Absolutely, we've got several folks in the chat room that have made. There's no true questions yet, but just some comments, some folks being nice and neighborly, saying hello. But yeah, please ask questions if you have any. And you know what? We'll even do one better. If you're so inclined, go ahead. The number's up on the screen. Go ahead and call the show, and hopefully we can answer your question for you for a small nominal fee of $1.99 a minute. Payable to me, of course. Marketing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, when you were talking about business owners and some of the reasons they fail by not knowing the business, I was the sole medical provider on a fast attack submarine, so responsible for the crew of 140-ish. And in our qualification process on that submarine, every sailor that's on that submarine has to qualify. And you go around and you physically touch every piece of equipment on that boat. And the reason behind it is during casualties, fires, whatever, especially during fires, the cabin fills up with smoke so quick you can't see what you're looking for. So you have to know where things are by touch. And I relate that to, you have to know your business. You can't just know the one product that you're selling. You have to know the ins and outs, what makes your business work. Who do you go to pay your electricity or your utilities? Who do you have to pay the rent to? Are people paying you on time? For the example of a martial arts school, and you gotta, it's a business. You gotta hold people accountable. If they're not paying, then they should probably not be a student there anymore. So you got to know. Bottom line is, you got to know your business inside and out.
Well, I'm going to give some examples to you plus the individual. So when I started, again, the health club business, I learned that we had members on subscription. So at the time, I got really good at going to corporate companies, and I say, okay, well, if I'm going to sell memberships, how do I sell memberships to a mass group, right? So I started realizing, okay, well, I can just go to corporate companies and create corporate memberships. And so the company, our location we had at the time was in Arkansas, and we had racquetball courts, we had Olympic sized pool, we had saunas and everything else. So it was really just a 50,000 square foot building. It was a beautiful built place. So I learned real quick on that end that you have a subscription. And when I left that business and I came back home, I wanted to get into something. I was lost. So I got into the insurance business just by mistake. There was a gentleman who sat down at my table one night. I told him I have 27 years old, don't have a college background, but I've been approached by insurance companies for years. I love, sales. I'm good at management. How do you like what you're doing in this career? And he told me, and he just gave me an opportunity where he introduced me to his manager. So Blue Cross and Blue Shield was a good company, straight commission, right? So I was very scared, feared, but at the same time, I knew in my gut that here's an opportunity for me to change, and here's an opportunity for me to learn some skills. And I was living home, my family's home, so I really didn't have too much debt at the time. So that's, for me, is where I learned that I'm in total, somewhat control of my ability to where if I make enough phone calls, if I make enough relationships, I can get that going. And I did that within a very short period of time. I proved to myself I can do it. I showed my family, friends, and all that. So that gave me that confidence. I started learning over a period of time, after about 2 years of doing that if I got sick, then I couldn't make the phone calls. I couldn't make the sales, right? So that time I started learning Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read the book. I think I probably read that book in one day. Once I read it, it was very eye catching. It started catching my attention. That's when I started learning about a friend of mine was doing some real estate. So the reason I'm saying this is that my life has been somewhat of a roller coaster. And I tell everyone that I got really good at the insurance business, but then the health insurance industry changed. So when it changed, that affected my commissions and my income. Then real estate, I got really good at real estate and I got good at investment property. And when Hurricane Katrina hit, I had about 35 properties at the time. I was about 35 years old. And at that time, I thought I was bulletproof, right? Every night I went to bed, I looked at the numbers and I said, okay, here's how much I owe on my properties. Here's my assets. So I was a millionaire on paper, right? And had some, good money in the bank. But I thought I was bulletproof. So I was in Texas. And that next day or whatever, I was playing with my dog outside in the backyard. And we were at my fiance's family's house up there. And I looked at the TV and that's where I saw the water and the bridges. And I just like dropped and nobody really understood why I had that face on me, right? So I had a conversation at the time with my fiance to understand that, listen, I don't know what I'm going back home to. That is our income. And she didn't understand at the time what I was doing. So she didn't realize that every day I was going to look at my properties. I was renting properties. I had all the properties in those areas. I didn't know what I was coming home to. So when I came home after weeks, I couldn't get back in this city for over a couple of weeks. And by the time I got back in, I started realizing that was all my income. So I had to start up a new construction company pretty much at the time, and do some repairs to places because that was my income opportunity. So the reason I say this story is the reason I stay uncomfortable, because I got comfortable. And when you get comfortable, you just stop learning. And when you stop learning, you don't realize the opportunities of leverage. So over the course of the years, going through that, I went through a bail of a bankruptcy after a few years because even though after Katrina, I recovered, but I didn't have a coach or I didn't have someone really walking me through some things to really help me understand that, Rene, what's going to happen right at that time in 2008. Remember 2008 was a crunch.
So, I remember well.
So we know that was another bam, right? And so that really kind of got me into a crunch because I didn't have multiple streams of income coming in. And when that happened, here I am, 39 years old, divorced, real estate lost, everything, had to restart again. And it took me about a year to really kind of catch my grip to find another sales opportunity with car dealerships and selling cars. And then I got back into the insurance business again, doing different things. So I tell this story is that I'm very real on understanding that I've gone through a lot of different ups and downs. I've gone through different businesses and I've seen what's happening in today's world. I started again with Allstate Insurance, and that was an opportunity to where I got on my feet again. And here I am, number one in this area. I was doing very good. We had a relationship with some car dealerships, so I didn't have to spend money on marketing. And we were doing very well. And all of a sudden, after 3 or 4 years into that, the Allstate corporate changed. So they decided, because of stockholders, that they decided that they're going to start doing some things that are going to basically affect the insurance agents who built the company. Okay. So here I am again, going through that process of comfortable. If it wasn't, again, for me starting my lawn care business at the same time and learning another skill and learning another trait. So I don't tell everyone to diversify too quickly, but I do tell everyone that when you look at Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if you never read it or watched it, go on videos, Cash Flow Quadrant. It's ESBI, which is employee, self-employed, business owner, investor. Okay, we have a caller.
Yes, sir, we do. Caller, go ahead, please.
Hi, good evening, y'all. So I'm Tara. I'm the one who commented. I'm part of the Death and Resurrection Doula training group on Convene, and
Welcome.
I'm listening to you guys talking, and I'm curious. I want to know, after I complete my training, which will be early this spring, what are some things that I can do to kind of fast track my doula business, but also not get lost in the shuffle, become just another, oh yeah, like, yeah, there's another doula, like something. What are things that I can do to make myself stand out and get out there?
I have a great answer for you. Did you say you were a member of Convene already?
Yes, sir.
Have you connected with Laurel Marr?
She is my instructor.
That is your best resource right there. She is amazing.
She is fabulous.
Yeah, I met her last night for the first time. We had a good conversation, and I really think with that profession, I lost my brother this past year, and we went through the whole process of the hospice. We went through the process of the insurance companies not covering some of the bills. We went through the stress of not understanding all of the back end. So I really feel what I understand so far with that program, which I'll have, is that it's all about really just doing what we're doing, and you're creating that energy. You're letting you people know what you do, and you're using your social media channels to really get your information out there. It's all about education. And if you look at it from the perspective that you want to let people know what you're doing, and the only way you can do that is by consistently every day posting different things that you feel is going to bring value to the people in your community. Does that make sense, Luke?
Absolutely. It makes sense. My condolences. I am a bereaved sister and a bereaved mother, so I understand your grief process, and just know that you're not alone in that struggle, for sure.
No, and just like with what y'all are doing with that program, it's very interesting, very exciting. The more I'm learning about it, but it is really just what we're doing here, and the reason I'm doing this podcast is to help bring out what it is, whatever your service is you have to start looking at yourself as a brand. You have to start treating yourself as a business as of today. So don't wait to start promoting yourself. Start looking at your social media channels and getting them looking professional, and how you want people to see you. And the more that they see that you are a brand, you're talking the walk, you're basically putting yourself out there. You're doing small podcasts like this, and that's where I would love to have you on our channel one time, and we can talk about this, because it's all about getting your community to know that you're an expert. You're learning, but at the same time, you know more than most people. And the more that you do this, and you start getting your YouTube channel and things of that nature, you'll be surprised on how fast you're going to start growing, because you're letting people know what you're doing. So
I was going to make a really bad joke, but I think I'll pass.
Go ahead, Don.
All right. I was just going to say, you picked a great field, because people are just dying to get in.
They are. They totally are.
And I'll just be quiet again.
Now, it is. I have some friends this past year where we're talking about funeral homes, and again, just going to my brother's pass, and we did cremation, and that's just become another thing, right? So people are just dying to get in. So it is what it is. We come in this life. We have a certain period of time in our life, and my goal is really just kind of the time that I have here is going to try to make as much of an impact And I think that's what each one of us are trying to do as we're doing this, that you want to just share your information, share your knowledge. And that's what I find is a very gratifying way that makes you really wake up every day, excited about what you're doing, excited about sharing information, helping people. And so that's really what it is. But if you want to learn more about a little bit what I do and a little bit of understanding of where we are, if you want to become part of my community, it's basically just an opportunity where we can all communicate. It's wypusa.com. It's what's your passion. You can learn more there. And if you are part of the Convene community, that I'm inside the Convene community, I'm still learning exactly how people can find me in there. But I do have a group that's starting up in there also. And it's just basically at this point, just really free education, information, basically answering questions and helping people. So I guess that at this point, Andy, I'm looking at it. Is there any other questions or anybody else?
No, I don't think so, Miss Tara. Thank you so much for calling in and sharing your stories, and I'm very sorry for your losses.
You know, they are part of why I do what I do. You know, life will shape you, and life will bring out passions you didn't know you had.
That's true.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Very true. Well, thank you so much for calling. Thanks for participating. And most importantly, thank you for watching.
Oh, thank you guys. Thank you for doing the podcast and, you know, sharing what you've already learned with others.
Absolutely.
We'll
talk to you next time.
So I think we'll just kind of leave it at that with right now, Andy. I think tonight was just really a kind of a good just opening opportunity where we can just kind of share some information. And I look forward to the next podcast and our next events that are going to be coming up. If you have any questions or any information, I think you can either send my information to, I don't know if it's on here. Did I leave my information somewhere in here, Andy?
No, but we'll put it up post-show.
Okay. So Rene Manfre, you can reach me on any kind of social media. You should be able to find me. We'll talk further, and we'll start adding this information out there on all the social media channels on the next podcast or next speakers that we're going to have for the next event. All
right, everybody. Thank you so much, and we will see you guys next week. Take care.
Bye-bye.